We're recording. Thank God
Yeah.
for every.
Turn it off.
All right, we'll turn off your microphones. We got the biblical word study
Okay.
going on here. We're studying one word at a time until we get it, and we know we're never going to get it. And this one word, and I just started studying today, was habitation, and we're going to look at that. And also dwell. So you'll get a couple of things that will run into each other there. But when I got the first one that I ran into when I started studying was this word 5115 in the let me turn off my thing here. Hold on a second. Where is it? There it is. Turn off the camera. There we go. 5115 and habitation. That's the first one you run into when you look up the word. You show it, habitation, Habita, and boom, there's the first one. Exodus 15 and 2. Um, and the word is Nava. It's TWOT 1322 because the other one really doesn't show much there. 1322. Pasture, abode of a shepherd, habitation, dwelling, abide. And I think I read this, but there wasn't much in there that I wanted to look at. Keep at home, prepare, and habitation. That was the first one I came across, and I put it in the notes, and I didn't really look at it too much. And the other one, the next one that I ran into was there was also the 5116 with that also. Let me put this 5116. And that's a habitation there. Okay, so you got 35 of those. And it's TWOT 1322. Holy habitation, the sheepcote habitation, sheepcote. What if that pops up? Sheepcote, same as sheepfold, in which the sheep was sheltered at night. 1 Samuel 23:24 and 3. The sheepcotes, by the way. I took thee from the sheepcote. He was telling David. And then David's, I took thee from the sheepcote. So that was David's job to take care of the sheep in the sheepcote. And that's the habitation. And you can see how all of this is going to play out into a tabernacle and dwelling place and who dwells with who and all of that stuff. So, and then the other one was 4186. 4186 is Moshab. And it comes from the big verb here, 3427, which is Yashab, which means to dwell or inhabit. And as you can see, there's over 1,000 verses, or at least 1,000 times, 1,088 times that it's up there. TWOT 922. So this is the masculine noun. It's the habitation, the dwellings, and there's some good stuff on that. If we wanted to take time to read all this, I think I did read it. It was over 1,090 times. Sending the throne, okay, appear from kusi or throne, or the verb yields the sense of ascending the throne in First Kings. First Kings, what happened here? First Kings 4:26. There it is. First Kings 1:46, and also Solomon sitteth on the throne of the kingdom, and that's 34:27. As you can see, Yashab, that's the verb, and he sits on the throne. Kisei, the throne, the seat, or the stool, and that comes from kasa, which means to cover or to hide or conceal. 1008, TWOT 1007, and TWOT 1008. So this seat here, stool, is something else you can look at. TWOT 1007 In the usage translated by throne, the minority have to do with literal thrones. These are either descriptions of thrones, or statements concerning kings sitting on specific thrones for matters of judgment, affairs of state, or royal honor. The great bulk of the references to throne take them figuratively. Thus, to sit on the throne of the kingdom was to rule the kingdom, or in some cases, to begin to rule the kingdom. 1 Kings 16:11, etc. Of the 87 figurative uses, at least 47 indicate that it is God who either placed a person on or removed him from the throne. Many of these related to the establishment of the Davidic line, and of these, vast majority relate to Solomon's accession in 1 Kings. The frequent statement that God has established, and that's the word kun, someone's throne, further indicates the royal stability wherever it is found. It's a function of God's sovereignty, and we know that he puts people there and he takes them down. Daniel 4, what is it, 4:17 or something? And who does he put up on it? He puts on the basis of men most of the time. The book of Proverbs on several occasions emphasizes that no throne is established by fraud, but rather through mercy, justice, and righteousness. And there's a lot of good stuff on throne there. And this dichotomy is forever resolved in the Messiah, as the Israelites looked at the long string of sorry kings visited on them, and as they compared these with God's perfect standard, they came to long for the Son of David who would rule them and the world out of love and not selfishness, with equity and not partiality. And that was Isaiah 9:7. Of the increase of his government and peace, there shall be no end upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice. And from henceforth, even forever, the zeal of the Lord of hosts will perform this. So that's Jesus there. Isaiah 16:5, Jeremiah 22:11, Zechariah 6:13. The testimony of the New Testament is that he has come, and that all creation waits breathlessly for his coronation day, when he will assume his throne forevermore. And whenever I see this JNO, this guy's good. Or whoever, if it's a guy or girl, I don't know. But anyway, he's good. He always has some good stuff going on when he writes. But that's quickly something on throne, and we might jump into that a little later with the throne and the tabernacle. And then and that was 4186, and also the 3427. That's the big verb there. And this one here we're probably going to get into, but I want to save that for. I just want to give you a few more here. This 4583. There it is. 4583. My own. Habitation, dwelling, masculine noun. It's the same as ona. That's interesting. From an unused root, apparently meaning to dwell together. So I guess it's the duty of marriage. It's one time in the Bible, 5772. Let's look at it real quick. 2, Exodus 21:10. If he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage, shall he not diminish? So duty of marriage, cohabitation, conjugal rights. Right? But this ma'on and the TWOT is 1581. Real quick, if we can get into it a little bit. There's a little thing here. To cover, to conceal. Yeah, okay. For a lot of times, dwelling, Isaiah 2:29. First Samuel 2:29. Wherefore kick ye at my sacrifice and at mine offering, which I have commanded in my habitation, and honorest thy sons above me, to make yourselves fat with the chiefest of all the offerings of Israel, my people. And in 232, and thou shalt see an enemy in my habitation, and all the wealth of God shall give Israel, and there shall not be an old man in thine house forever. So he's mad at somebody there. We could go do a check on that, but it's First Samuel, so it's got to be either David or Solomon. And in Zephaniah 3:17, the Lord thy God is in the midst of thee. He's mighty. He will save. He will rejoice over thee with joy. He will rest in his love. He will joy over thee with singing. So he's in the midst of thee. Will save thee. I'm trying to think of the word here. Wait, rest. There it is. 2790. Nope, that's not it. He will rest with thee in love. He will joy over thee with singing. I don't look at the word here. It's 1581, 4583. That was from 5772. Let me look at the 4583. 4583. 4583. So it's 3. It's not this one. It's that's a misprint. If you got the book, the TWOT, now would be the time to change that. Go to TWOT 1581 and change Zephaniah 3:17 to 3:7. I said, surely thou wilt fear me, and thou wilt receive instruction. So their dwelling, my own, should not be cut off, howsoever I punish them. But they rose early and corrupted all their doings. And you'll find that throughout the whole Old Testament, the corruption of Israel and why he scattered them. And he's going to bring them back. Why? Because he wants to, not for anything they're doing or anything we're doing. We don't deserve anything. We deserve nothing but hell. It's only through God's grace that we go anywhere else or he does anything else to and for us. And it's all for his glory, you know. It is used 18 times. This word is used to depict the ruins of desolate cities, now the dwelling place of wild animals. Most frequently, it designates the Lord's dwelling place, in other words, heaven, always qualified with the word holy, and the temple, as in Psalms 26:8, it says, Lord, I have loved the habitation of thy house, and the place where thine honor dwelleth. And you'll see 2 words in there at least. You got the habitation, the ma'on, and of course house. That's a big one. That's bayith. You can see the word bayith attached to a lot of things. It's over 2,000 times in the Bible, bayith. And the place, let me see what place is here. Makon, and the place, the home, the room, standing place, comes from kum. That's the big verb kum, and you'll see that a lot. Kum, and with honor and this dwelling, 4908, 4908. Okay, that's the one we're going to look at next. All right, good. And so I won't dwell on it right now, but that's good. Finally, it portrays the Lord as a refuge for his people. And that's Psalm 71 and 3. Be thou my strong habitation, whereunto I may continually resort, and thou hast given commandments to save me, for thou art my rock and my fortress. And in 90:1, he says, the prayer of Moses, the man of God, Lord, thou hast been our dwelling place in all generations. In Psalms 91:9, because thou hast made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation. So it's not it's a figurative place, metaphorical place, and it's God when he dwells everywhere. Even Samuel said, what are we going to make a house on earth for you for? It can't hold you, you know. So that's the 1581. And the big one here, am I down to it yet? Let me do one more of these. This 20, 2073. 2073, there it is. Zebul comes from 2082, which means to dwell with me. 2082. 22. Leah, okay. Genesis 30 and 20. And Leah said, God hath endued me with a good dowry. Now will my husband dwell with me, because I have borne him 6 sons. And she called his name Zebulon. Yeah, she was getting a lot of them out there. Yeah, she got a lot. And she really loved the Lord, and she gave them all good names. And Leah was the one that was not hated, but he loved Rachel better than Leah. And Rachel was crying and moaning, and she was a real spoiled brat, Rachel. And Leah was good, man. Every time she had a child, she was very happy, and she named it with that particular name, and that was good. And actually, Leah has she's buried with her husband, and as we know, Rachel died on the way to Bethlehem, man. So Rachel weeping for her children because they are not, and she died in childbirth. But Leah is the one that's buried with Jacob in the cave in Machpelah. You have Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and their wives, and Leah is the one that's there with him. So that's cool. I love Leah. I love Rachel too, but she was a real brat, when you come right down to it. So Zebul, habitation, dwelling, to dwell in, exalted residence, elevation, lofty. And this is TWOT 526. The terms of rule first occurs in 1 Kings 8:13, when at the dedication of the temple, Solomon addressed the Lord and said, I have built thee an exalted house. The expression Bet Zebul is rendered an house to dwell in. Bet, and a magnificent temple in the NIV. In 2 passages, Zebul is associated with heaven. Isaiah 63:15. Look down from heaven and behold from thy habitation of thy holiness and of thy glory. Where is the zeal of thy strength, the sounding of thy bowls, and of thy mercies towards me? Are they restrained? This is in Isaiah. So his habitation. He looks down from that habitation. So he's dwelling on high. And intervene on behalf of the exile. In Habakkuk 3:11, there is a reference to Joshua's long day when the sun and the moon stood still in the heavens. Habakkuk 3:11, the sun and the moon stood still in their habitation. At the light of thine arrows they went, and at the shining of thy glittering spear. And in the heavens, in Joshua 10, 12 and 13, then spoke Joshua to the Lord on the day when the Lord delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel, and said in the sight of Israel, Sun, stand thou still upon Gibeon, and thou moon in the valley of Ajalon. And the sun stood still, and the moon stayed until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies. It is not written in the book of Jasher. So the sun stood still in the midst of heaven and hasted not to go down the whole day. Last occurrence is found in Psalms 49:14, a passage that bemoans the fate of fools. Even the wealthy ones are destined for the grave, far from their princely mansions, and so they have no habitation. You got to live somewhere, and if you have no habitation, you're not going anywhere. You're dead. Each of these references has some link with splendor or majesty, and the basic meaning of the word may be eminence. One of the titles for Baal in the Ugaritic corpus in Zebul Balzar, Prince of the land of the earth, Zebul Balzar, the god of Ekron, mentioned in 2 Kings 1, 2, and 6. That's Baal Zebub, Lord of the Flies. may be an intentional perversion of Baal Zebul. 2 Kings 1, where it says Isaiah fell down, and Beelzebub, Beelzebub, Lord of the Fly. You know what Baal is? Baal is Lord, and Zebub means fly. So Lord of the Flies, Beelzebub. And in the Greek, it's 954. It's Beelzebub, Lord of the Flies. It's another name for Satan or Prince of Evil Spirits. So they kind of like took it from there. And then Zebulon, of course, the name of the sixth son of Leah and the 10th son of Jacob. Zebulon may mean honor, and it has been related to the Akkadian Zebulu, or the bridegroom's gift. Also Zebul, 30, 19, and 20. Leah conceived again and bare Jacob, the sixth son. Yeah. She called his name Semele. So now my husband will dwell with me. So that's interesting. My husband will dwell with me. So we got Zabal. Okay. Now it makes sense. But that one time in the Bible, Zabal, and his name is Zebulon. Very good. All these things connected. I will tell me because he didn't call his name Zebulon. That's good. Zebul. The tribe of Zebulun was the fourth largest, both at the start and the conclusion in the wilderness wanderings. And if you look at Numbers 1 and Numbers 26, you'll see that some of the tribes grew in the wilderness, and some of them squandered in the wilderness. In the list of the 12 tribes, Zebulun normally followed Issachar, but in the blessing of Moses, Zebulun is named first. Zebulun joined the disgraced Reuben in pronouncing the curses from Mount Ebal. And you got they had the cursing and the blessing, Mount Ebal, and what was the other one? Gerizim or something. And these stand upon Mount Ebal to curse: Reuben, Gad, Asher, Zebulun, Dan, and Naphtali. And the other ones were on the other mountain. Let's get the name of it. Gerizim, there it is. And they shall stand upon the Mount Gerizim to bless the people. And, in between the two mountains, somebody could whisper, and you could hear them speaking in between the two mountains. So you didn't really have to shout. When you see these two mountains on a map, they seem to be far away from the other, and they probably are. But if you can stand in a valley and talk and make a speech, everybody will hear you, because the sound travels like that. And Zebulun's tribal allotment is given in Joshua. Territory lay in the northern edge, all right? And Zebulun with the seashore. Right? Well, it's not actually. Perhaps this refers primarily to the trade between the Mediterranean Sea and the Galaxy. When when you look at Zebulun, it's actually landlocked, and they shall call the people into the mountain. They shall offer sacrifices of righteous. They shall suck the abundance of the seas and the treasures hidden in sand. And there's a lot to discuss about when Jesus, where he traveled, as far north as he went and as far south as he went. That's basically what it's talking about. Zebulun was one of the tribes which failed to drive out the Canaanites. All right, I'm not going to get into the Zebulun stuff right now, but you'd have to do a whole study on all of the families. But the next word, so that was interesting. I didn't read that before. And this one here, 43, 49, excuse me, 43, 49. Place. Okay, 17 times here. Okay, place. I was reading something in this before. The whole thing here, I'm not going to read all of this. I'll run it through here. Something about prepare, preparing. Basically, what the name, if you look at the other word, is kun, which means to prepare. So that's the verb, and you'll see a lot of words having to do with kun or preparing, establishing. But this makon is down here somewhere. Prepare, establish, prepare. Hmm. All right, right, true, that's place. There we go. All right, so we'll put the 4349, 4349, and you'll see when you read this, it says Macon is place. It occurs 17 times, all but one. Psalms 104:5 refer to God's dwelling place, either in heaven or in the temple. So all of these have to do with God's dwelling place. Uh, Thou shalt bring them in and plant them in the mountain of thine inheritance, in the place, O Lord, which thou hast made for thee to dwell in the sanctuary, O Lord, thy hands have established it. I have surely built thee a house to dwell in a settled place for thee to abide forever. And you can see a couple of words in there. Built is the bana. A house is the bayith. All right, to dwell in, we just looked at to dwell is zebu, in a settled place. Makon. All these words in there at the same time. They mean basically the same thing: built, house, dwell, settled place. To abide, and there's yashab. Whew. That whole thing is has to do with dwelling and habitation. Uh, every word in there. Then here, thou in heaven thy dwelling place, and forgive and do, and give to every man according to his ways, whose heart thou knowest, for thou, even thou, only knowest the hearts of all the children of men. So this is Solomon's prayer at the dedication of the temple, and he's saying, if we ever screw up, look down on us, if we're on our face asking for forgiveness, you forgive us. Hear thou in heaven thy dwelling place, and do according to all that the stranger calleth to thee for, that all the people of the earth may know thy name, to fear thee, and do thy people Israel, as do thy people Israel, and that they may know that this house which I have built is called by thy name. And this is all in the same chapter. Then hear thou the prayer and their supplication in having thy dwelling place, and maintain their cause, if they get on their face before you. And this is the same thing in Second Chronicles. And Ezra 268, some of the chief of the fathers, when they came to the house of the Lord, which is in Jerusalem, offered freely for the house of God to set it up in his place. From the place of his habitation, he looketh upon the inhabitants of the earth. Let's look at those words. Place of his habitation. Well, that's the Yashab, 922. He looketh upon all the inhabitants, same word, of the earth. Justice and judgment are the habitation of thy throne. Mercy and truth shall go before thy face. Clouds and darkness around about him. Righteousness and judgment are the habitation of his throne. The key say, who laid the foundations of the earth, that it should not be removed forever. So this is the only verse here that really had not to do with his place, his habitation. So all of the rest of these verses have to do with that. His place, his sanctuary. Basically, he magnified himself even to the prince and the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. Antiochus. What was the other word I was looking at now? I wanted to go to, I did my own, I did, now I got to do the checking, because that'll take us into the New Testament. And these numbers here Let me put them down. First, I'll put down the masculine noun. That's 4908. 4908. All right. That's the tabernacle. And then 7931. 7931. And that's place, dwelt. Okay. And 7933. 7933. Probably a couple more in there, but let me look at this real fast. In 12, Deuteronomy 12:5. But unto the place which the Lord your God shall choose out of all your tribes to put his name there, even unto his habitation shall ye seek, and thither shall thou come. And the place, the makom, the place, the room, standing place, and that's kum, of course, to rise, to stand. Okay. So that's the one time in the Bible there. There's 7933 is Shechem. All right. And the TWOT 2387, we'll get into that a little bit. And this the 7931 is Shakan, kin by transmission to 7901. And the 7901 is Shakab, means to lie or to sleep or to lie down. It's a different TWOT number through the idea of lodging. So this Shakam means to dwell, to abide, to place, to remain, to settle down. And then you have the 4908, which is the Mishkan, and it comes from the 7931, and it means tabernacle or dwelling or habitation or dwelling place. And the 2387, I think I wanted to read this, or did I want to go to the theological dictionary? So you got 3 or 4 of them here. Dwell, tabernacle, dwelling, and this one is just neighbor or inhabitant. It's used 129 times in the Old Testament, most often in the Kal, in the Pial, and in Hithal, and the God is the designated subject of the verb 43 times. He may dwell in Mount Zion. He dwells among his people. He will dwell in Jerusalem. He's everywhere. It is Jerusalem in which God has chosen to cause his name to dwell. Now it says his name to dwell because he's not physically there. So it's his name. Deuteronomy 12:11. He says, then there shall be a place which the Lord your God shall choose to cause his name to dwell there. And that's his authority. Thither shall ye bring all that I command you, your burnt offerings, your sacrifices, your tithes, and the heave offering of your hand, and all your choice vows which you vow unto the Lord. On several occasions, some symbolic representation of the divine presence dwells among the people. The glory of God is to dwell in the land. Exodus 24:16, and all the people of the Lord abode upon Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it 6 days. And the 7th day he called unto Moses out of the midst of the cloud. And that's a representation of the tabernacle that he built. Because there was a cloud, he had to put the smoke from the what you call it, from the altar, and put it onto the to make the cloud, and you couldn't see the glory of God. And this is just a picture. The Mount Sinai is a picture of the temple. All right, and Psalms 85:9. Surely his salvation is nigh them that fear him, that glory may dwell in our land. More often, the subject of the dwelling is the cloud, in a different sense, and that's the cloud had to be there. And when the cloud was taken up from the tabernacle, then after the children of Israel journeyed, and in the place where the cloud abode, there the children of Israel pitched their tents. So we're talking about the cloud. When the cloud abode, the tabernacle rested. When the cloud moved, they moved. They lay in darkness. The verb is translated most often in the Septuagint by kataskenuo, rather than simply skenuo, the tent on approximately a 2-to-1 ratio, with the longer prefixed form should predominate is not totally clear. Why it should is not totally clear, but one suggestion is that the longer form reinforces and lays further stress on the idea of a longer and permanent stay rather than an overnight hop. And this, let me see if I can find this right now. Scale 4633. Let me put these over here. I'll make another one here. Just to tell you what this Cactus Genuo is. I thought I had it easier. Oh, I got Cactus Oikos. Cactus Genuo. I was just looking at it. Hold on a second. Cactus Genuo. It's in the TDNT. Skinoma. Skinose. Here it is. Cactus Genuo. 2681. 2681. Large. Cactus Genuo. And here's the Skenuo. So you got Cactus Genuo is a verb. They're both verbs. It means to lodge or to rest, to pitch one's tent, to fix one's abode, or to dwell. And Skenuo is to fix one's tabernacle, to have one's tabernacle side. But they use Cactus Genuo in the Septuagint rather than the Skenuo. You'll probably see Skenuo in there too, but I'll check on that. And it comes from the 4636, which is skenos. I have all these here already, I believe. Yes. So you got skene is tabernacle or habitation. That's 4633. Right? And then 4636 is skenos, which comes from 4633. And as you can see, it's Theological Dictionary 7. Starts on page 368, I believe. Yeah, starts on page 368 and it goes all the way up, all the way. As you can see here, it's 381, 386. So it goes all the way to Scanonia, Scanogia, the picture 10th. So it goes from 368 to 394. So that's a lot to read. All right. We're not going to get into that. But and then 4638 is skenoma. And that also means tabernacle. And that comes from 4637, which is skenuo, which means to dwell. And it comes from 4636. We looked at already. And this kata skenuo is the lodge or to rest. And there's a few more here. There's a skenorgia, and there's also a skenopois. And there's also an episkenuo. So I didn't write all those numbers down. I did get this last one, this 2681. So I got at least 5 of them. And when you throw them, I think I did this already. Yeah, you throw this 2681 in the Septuagint, and it gives you 53 verses. Okay, and you'll find out that it's the doubtless ye shall not come into the land concerning which I swear to make you dwell therein, save Caleb the son of Jephunneh and Joshua the son of Nun. So the word here is dwell, and that's shakan. That's what we're looking at right now. The shakan in the in here, shakan. All right, that's what we're looking at. 2387. So we might get into reading this whole thing. I think we were already. Yeah, 2387. Here we go. So 2/3. Okay, let me see here. There is another verb in Hebrew, which also means to inhabit or to dwell, and that's yashab. We looked at that already. What is the difference between the two? Occasionally, they are used in parallelism, and you'll see that in Isaiah 18:3. All ye inhabitants, all right, that's yashab. All ye inhabitants of the world and dwellers, shakan on the earth. See ye when he lifted up an ensign on the mountains, and when he bloweth a trumpet, hear ye. So both of the words are in there, all the inhabitants. Okay, and in Jeremiah 49:31, arise, get you up unto the wealthy nation that dwelleth without care, saith the Lord, which have neither gates nor bars, which dwell alone. So you got one dwelleth here, the Yashab, and the other dwell here is Shakan in Jeremiah 49:31. All right. I have built a dwelling for you. Basically, the distinction is that Yashab is reserved for passages describing a man's dwelling among his people on earth. Seldom is Yashab used when God's dwelling on earth is under discussion. So that would be the Shakan, which is more like the tabernacle type of dwelling, where the Yashab is you can live in your house, and that's your Yashab, you know. Solomon even asks the rhetorical question, will God indeed dwell, all right, on earth? And that's Yashab. When Yashab is used in connection with God's dwelling, it is his heavenly abode that is alluded to. He that sits in the heavens shall laugh. You remain forever. The word is suggestive then of majesty and regality. For God's dwelling is Jerusalem and Zion. Shakan, on the other hand, underscores the idea not of loftiness, but of nearness and closeness. So Shakan is a neighbor or an inhabitant, and Mishkan is the tabernacle. The portable sanctuary constructed by the Israelites in the wilderness described in some detail, and Exodus 25:31 and 35-40. Until recent decades of biblical scholarship vis-a-vis the tabernacle was preoccupied with either affirming or denying the reconstructionist approach. Now, this guy here, whenever you see Wellhausen, just pass him up. Don't even read anything that he writes because he's always wrong. I haven't read anything that he ever did that I agree with and that I couldn't prove that he was wrong. I don't know where this guy came from or how he justifies some of the stuff that he writes. But even this guy here tells you that he's full of it. So this Wellhausen in the 19th century, in a nutshell, he concluded that the Exodus account of the tabernacle was a literary fiction composed in the post-exilic period and was an idealization of the wilderness era using Solomon's temple as the model. How wrong can you be? And he tries to substantiate his position. He paraded such proofs as it is doubted whether the Israelites possessed the necessary skills in the wilderness period, especially when they need Phoenician help with Solomon's building, or the qualities of material. This guy. So the weakness of these arguments have been fairly well detected by modern biblical scholarship. Why even mention this guy? He's in a lot of books that I read, and I don't know why he's always quoted. I guess they just want to show you, hey, this guy's an idiot. Don't read anything. As to the structure itself, there is a close architectural and chronological parallel in the inmost chapel surrounding the sarcophagus in the tomb of Tutankhamun. The sides were demountable, made of framework boards covered with gold and fastening with sliding bolts. Over the structure was a linen curtain adorned with gold rosettes. The structure is on display in the Cairo Museum. More pressing issue is the degree to which the institution of the tabernacle solves or complicates the problem of dovetailing the ideas of God's transcendence and immanence. The tabernacle is the dwelling place of the Lord among his people, and yet the heaven of heavens are unable to contain him, as Solomon said. how to reconcile the apparently paradoxical. They say those who accept the validity of such identification and criticism see at work here an antagonism between the two sources. The two sources would be P versus D, or the priestly versus the Deuteronomy, and the Deuteronomistic literature. And there's all kinds of different. These guys compare different writings. There's P, there's D, there's a few others I can't think of right now, and they're all the eclectic texts. The former does not hesitate to conceive of and express the divine presence in a corporeal sense, i.e., the actual abiding of God in His abode. This could be called an anthropomorphic theology. It's just putting human figures on something, like when you say the hand of God. It's not really the hand of God because He's a spirit. He doesn't have a hand. So we're putting anthropomorphic connotations on Him. He doesn't have a mouth. He doesn't have ears. He doesn't have eyes. So that's what we mean when we say anthropomorphic. God dwells in a tabernacle, a house, or a tent. By contrast, Deuteronomy does not speak of the tabernacle as a place where God dwells, or I dwell, but uses the phrase, He causes His name to dwell. And we just looked at that. You'll see a lot of times His name is there, which makes more sense because He's not going to dwell there physically. All right. It causes His name to dwell there. In the place where He chooses to place His name there. Sacrifice the Passover and the flock of the herd in the place where the Lord shall choose to place His name there. All these verses have to place His name there. It is then suggested that the writers of Deuteronomy are attempted to combat the idea that God actually dwelled in the tabernacle, the abstract versus the corporeal. I don't know if you pronounce that right, corporeal. The scripture passages emphasize the placing of God's name are conveniently listed in Weinfeld. It's not God's name, not God Himself. It is God's name, not God Himself, who dwells in the tabernacle. I mean, you can't see Him. If you saw Him, you would die. I mean, that's why all the smoke is there. If He does come down, He's spirit, so His name is dwelling there. Why exactly these phrases and conceptions are mutually exclusive rather than two sides of the same coin, and thus complementary, is hard to see. One phrase, God dwells, is a polemic against Israel's temptation to make her God Emeritus and deistic. The phrase God's name dwells is a polemic against the temptation to localize God. Such circumstances dictated the dialectical conception of God's dwelling. So is it His name or is it He really dwelling there? Let me see what we got here. Tabernacle, Moses travels in it. Okay. Moses receives the tablets from God on the mountain, the top of which was completely enfolded by a cloud and the glory of God. There he also receives instructions in building the tabernacle. After its completion, the glory of God, once in Sinai, now fills the tabernacle. What happened at Sinai is continued in the tabernacle. That's why I said it was a type of the temple. There is a continuity between God's former revelation and of His will and His continual revelation in the tabernacle. And now where is it? It's in our heart, right? It went from that physical to the spiritual. And we got the TDNT7 here. That's Skine. And we'll look at that a little bit if we can. And if you have the TWOT, but let me give you some of these other phrases in the Greek here, because this one here is this katoika. Oikos is the house, right? The dwelling, katoika. But this is 2733 is the habitation. Acts 17:26, and hath made of one blood all nations of men for to dwell on the face of the earth, and He has determined the times before appointed and the bounds of their habitation. So this dwell is the katoik. Let me put this up here, 2730. All right. So that's katoikeo. Katoikeo. It's kata and oikeo, which means to dwell. And that's 3611. I'll have to throw these all up here. 27:33. So you got the bounds of the habitation. Okay, that's katoika. That's one time in the Bible. All right, and then you got this dwell, katoikeo, in there, and then you got the 36:13. 36:13 is the house or habitation, and this would be oikotarion. You can see the oikos in there, right? Oikeo, and equivalent to 36:12 is oikema, and that's a prison. Okay, there's one time in the Bible. Take a look at that real quick if you can. 36:12. And behold, the angel of the Lord came upon him in a light shined in the prison. And he smote Peter on the side and raised him up, saying, Arise quickly. And his chains fell from off his hands. From the oikema, that's the prison. And 36:13, we got that there. And then 27:32. 27:32. And this is habitation. Ephesians 2:22. In whom you also are builded together for an habitation of God through the Spirit. So we're builded together. Let's look at this word, builded together. One time in the Bible. It's soon oikodomeo. So with house, build together. One time. All right. Habitation of the Lord through the Spirit. And then Revelation 18:2, it says, and he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and has become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. What's the hold here? The phylake, that's a prison, right? So become the habitation. It's become the kata oikterion. I didn't look at this, did I? So this is a kata oikterion. Katoiketherion. The habitation, abode. But it's interesting. You got the hold here, the habitation of devils and the prison of every foul spirit and a cage. It's the same thing. Why would they do this? You got the same word, phylake, for hold of every foul spirit and cage of every unclean and hateful bird. A phylake of every foul spirit and a phylake of every unclean and hateful bird. But apparently in the English, they decided to make hold and cage. So that's why we don't use the English too much. We like to stay with the Greek, phylake, and it means prison. Allow so to God to keep watch. So that's 27:30, and then 33. Did I look at that? Yes, we did. And 32, we just looked at Katoikarion. I'm not sure. Let me double check. 27:32, 32. Yes, and then 39, 39, 39, 39. Is there really TDNT on this? Yeah, that's 5. 153. I didn't pull this book down, but we'll probably get into it some other time. But this 39:39 is par-oikeo. So you got the para, which is of, nearby, at, beside, and oikeo, to dwell beside, to dwell near. And the verses, Luke 24:18, and the one of them whose name was Cleopas, answering said unto him, Art thou only a stranger in Jerusalem, and hast not known the things which are come to pass there in these days? So he's actually talking to Jesus. He didn't even know it. And then Hebrews 11:9, by faith he sojourned in the land of promise as in a strange country, dwelling in tabernacles with Isaac and Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise. So this is the faith's sojourned in the land of promise in a strange country, dwelling, katoikeo, in what? Tabernacles, in skine. So we're going to get into this a little soon here. Skine. I just wanted to finish up these oikeos here. But we know he's talking. We're talking about Abraham here. All right. And he goes, by faith, Abraham, when he was called to go out into a place which he should after receive for an inheritance, obeyed, and he went out, not knowing whither he went. Now, that's faith. By faith, he sojourned in the land of promise in a strange country, dwelling in tabernacles with Isaac and Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise. That's good stuff. And so with this skine here, we'll get back into that. I gave you these words already, didn't I? I don't remember. Okay, so skine is the feminine noun, and it's on the first page there, 368. In Theological Dictionary 7368, tabernacle, habitation. It's 20 times in the Bible. And 4636 is skenos, which means tabernacle, and it's 2 times in the Bible. So let's read them real quick. 2 Corinthians 5:1. For we know that if our earthly house of this tabernacle was dissolved, we have a building of God, a house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. Now, when you read these words, you know it's building up, right? The house is oika, right? We didn't even look at that, but that's another form of the oikos there. Tabernacle is up. We have a building. What? An oikodome. And these are not physical buildings. This is a spiritual house, oikea, and the tabernacle. So the skenos is the oikos. Same thing. For we that are in this tabernacle do groan while we're here on the earth. We should read the whole thing in context, but you get it. You get what I'm talking about. Being burdened, for not that we would be unclothed, but clothed upon, that mortality might be swallowed up of life. 2 Corinthians 5:4. And then Acts 7:46, you'll see this word skenoma, which means tabernacle. And it's a neuter noun, a tent or a tabernacle, and who found favor before God and desired to find a tabernacle for the God of Jacob. And this is Stephen before he was stoned. He's telling the history of Israel to a bunch of Pharisees who are ready to stone him. And then 2 Peter 1:13. Yeah, I think it meet as long as I am in this this tabernacle, this body, to stir you up by putting you in remembrance, knowing that shortly I must put off this my tabernacle, even as our Lord Jesus Christ has showed me. So he knew that's his tabernacle. And then the word was made flesh and what? Dwelt among us. To fix one's tabernacle, to have one's tabernacle, to dwell. And we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten Father, full of grace and truth. That's where Jim got the name for the ministry. Therefore are they before the throne of God and serve him day and night in his temple, and he that sitteth on the throne shall dwell among them. Let's see if this throne is different. This throne is Thronos. Okay, that makes sense. 2362. It's not God's throne. Thronos. Threo, to sit in a stately seat. Throne. Throne seat. How many times? 61 times. Okay. So it's Theological Dictionary 3:160. We'd have to pull that down and look at it. I'm not going to do that right now. Sitting throne, throne, throne. I guess most of the time it's going to be throne. Wherever you see throne in the New Testament, this is going to be it. The Son of Man shall come in glory, and all holy angels. Then he shall sit upon a throne of glory, throne of David. They pull down the mighty from their seats, sit on the thrones. Let me see what Revelation means. A lot of stuff in Revelation about these thrones here, of course. And the last, and there should be no more curse, but the throne of God and the Lamb shall be in it, and his servants shall serve him. And that's where the pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of God and out of the Lamb and of the Lamb. That's the throne. All right. This Cataskenuo, is that the one I was looking at? 20, no, it's yeah, it is 2681, right? Yeah, 2681. Yeah. So when you throw that into the Old Testament, I don't know why they put this into the Old Testament, but in which Matthew 13:32, which indeed is the least of all seeds, talking about the mustard seed, and when it is grown, it is the greatest among herbs, and becometh a tree, so that the birds of the air come and lodge in the branches thereof. Now, if they saw this little mustard seed on the ground, they would have ate it long ago. But now now they're lodging in the branches of it because the mustard seed grew. And also the same thing in Mark, and Luke has the same thing. And then Acts 2:26, therefore did my heart rejoice and my tongue was glad. Moreover, also my flesh shall rest in hope. Acts 2:26, Cataskenuo. And we threw that into the Old Testament. And I'm just curious as to what the other ones are in. Let me see if they get translated into something different here. 4633. That's a feminine noun. The verb is 4637. 4637. Let's go to the Old Testament Greek, and it's 4637. 4637. Wow. One time. 4637 is skenuo, a tent to encamp. That is figuratively to occupy as a mansion or specifically to reside, as God did in the tabernacle of old, a symbol of protection and communion. Dwell. And it shows up one time in the Old Testament as Genesis 13:12. Abraham dwelled in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelled in the cities of the plain and pitched his tent toward Sodom. So it's probably pitched his tent. Abraham, Kata here. It doesn't have a Strong's number, but we can see it's Kato Kessin. Kato Kessin. And then that's in Canaan. He dwelled in Canaan. So this Cato, it's probably Cato Scaneo, okay, and Lot in Cato Kessin. That's a different way of spelling it, but I'm sure it's part of that Scane thing. All right, and then in the plain of Perocos in the region, and then this pitched his tent is that 167. Pitched his tent is a hal, a denominative of 168. 168 is a whole ohel. It means a tent, or clearly a conspicuous form, a covering, a dwelling, or a tabernacle. And it comes from 166. If I can get this out of here, I can't do it. I'd have to go to the other place and see it. But that's pitch's tent, Eskenosen. Good. One time. But these other numbers, 4638, 4638. Wonder if they show up at all. Oh, it does. Okay. 64 matches. But I want to get this 168 here. I want to get the 166. Never next time. Forget about it. So there's Deuteronomy 33:18. And Zebulon, he said, rejoice, Zebulon, in thy going out, and Issachar in thy tents. So that's the 168. 168. I don't want to see what 166 is. It means ahal, which means a primitive mood to be dear, to shine. It's one time. 166. I'm curious here. 166. Oh, it's 166. 166. Behold, even to the moon it shineth not. Yea, the stars are not pure in his sight. Ahal. To be clear, to shine. So, but 168 is tense. How they got this there, I don't know. But it works, I guess. And 168 is tense. Oh, hell. The tabernacle tent. We could be looking at this, but 166 is ahal. That's shineth. What was the other number? 167, I think it was, right? 167, I think. Let me try it. 167. Yeah, his tent. So this 166 is like, it shineth. To be clear, to shine. Oh, how? It's a different TWOT number. So this is the TWOT 32. And Abraham dwelled in the land of Canaan and pitched his tent towards Sodom. Abraham removed his tent. Okay, Abraham pitched his tent. That's and this pitched the tent. Dwell in tents. 345 times. All right, a lot of stuff there. Let me get rid of this. Tent dwelling, Ahola, Aholibah. All right. There's some names we're familiar with. Dwelling, home, tabernacle, tent. Animal skin or goat's hair, dwelling of nomadic people, shepherd, royal hell, continue to have the habitation or home. Tabernacle is essentially a tent composed of 2 layers of cloth and 2 layers of skin stretched over a wooden framework. It is designated tent of meeting, Ohel Moed, as well as tent of testimony, Ohel Edut, Aholibah, Ahola, Aholibah. Ezekiel uses these nouns as symbolic names for Samaria and Jerusalem. Ahola is her tent, and Aholibah is my tent is in her. The names Aholiab, tent of the Father, and Aholibama, tent of the high place, are from this noun. All right, Aholibama, tent of the All right, that's a little bit on tents there. All right, where was I? I don't know. Tabernacle, I think. I wanted to do this one. Anyway, we'll get into something here. It's just a study. We just go, this is how we study. We go through one thing at a time, man. So this is the 2387. This is connected with these words here. The dwelling and the habitation and the tabernacle. 7931, 7933, and 4908. The Shakan, yeah, and the Mishkan. And when you read the Theological Dictionary of the New Testament, all of these words will pop up here. Like the Ohel we just looked at, that's in here. All right. And this the Sikuth, that's the Sikuth is something else. So the obvious prominence of Skene for Mishkan is surprising and demands explanation. I don't know, in view of the fact that Mishkan means dwelling rather than tent. All right. G 5208. I got written on the side here. 5208. What is that? No. 5208. Matter. I don't know why I have that there. Hooray. All right. So the etymology of skene can no longer be fixed with certainty, and the probable root neither yields the meaning tent in other languages. Nevertheless, the history of the word shows that from the very first and consistently, tent is the basic sense from which all others derive. So basically, skene, skenos, skenoma, skenuo, and there's a lot of stuff here about the Old Testament tense and stuff like that. Okay, in page 372, there are a few statements which, without any specific reference to the tabernacle or the temple, speak of Yahweh's dwelling in heaven or on earth in a skene. Usually, any such statement is figurative or poetic. Isaiah 40, 22. I hope these match up because sometimes they got it wrong. Isaiah 40, 22. I didn't read this yet. We're reading it together for the first time. Oh, actually, I read this long ago, but we're reading it today for the first time. It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth, and the inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers, that stretches out the heavens as a curtain, and spreads them out as it tends to dwell on. Look at all the words in there. Sitteth on the circle of the earth. Yashab, dwell, inhabit, okay? On the circle of the earth, Kug, the circuit, the compass, the inhabitants, there's the inhabitants again, and it's the same Yashab. So he that sitteth, I mean, if you were to look at this in 22, let me see. No, I mean, I'd have to put this in the Septuagint, and it would say Yashab, Kug, Aretz, right? And then it would say Yashab again. Yashab, Kug, Aretz, Yashab. But here we got sitteth on the circle of the earth, inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers. He stretches out the heavens as a curtain and spreads them out as a tent, or hell, to dwell in. And there's Yashab again. So they got sitteth, Yashab, inhabitants, Yashab, and dwell in, Yashab. That'd be interesting to look at Isaiah 40:22 in the Septuagint and see. I mean, not in the Septuagint, in the Old Testament. Isaiah with the Hebrew. Isaiah, I'm curious. Isaiah 40:22. It would just be Yashab, Yashab, Yashab. Isaiah 40:22. 40:22. One more. Okay. Now let's do this Hebrew Old Testament. 40:22. There it is. Yashab. And there, and there, and here's Yashab. 34:27. Yashab, Yashab, Yashab. All right. And anyway, so where was I? I was reading this here. What was I reading? Okay. In Isaiah 40:22, it is a simile. God stretches out heaven like a curtain and spreads it out like a tent to dwell in. All right. When Second Samuel 22:12 says that God makes darkness his pavilion. Second Samuel 22:12. That's the skine. Second Samuel 22:12. Well, he made darkness pavilions round about him, dark waters and thick clouds, the skies. Pavilions, sukkah. And these, it's talking about the Septuagint. So when you look at these in the Septuagint, it's probably this skine word. And it's also 1712. Oh, actually 1811. The clouds are best by the secret place. Darkness, his secret place in his pavilion, 5521. Same thing. All right. It says that God made darkness his pavilion. It's skine, roundabout. The meaning is not that he dwells in a tent, but that he dwells in darkness. So, nor strictly does Job 36:29. I mean, let me. I want to. I want to be running around looking at all of these. I probably could skine 4633. 4633. 4633. 4633, I think. Yeah. Let me see if there's a lot of them. Yeah, look at it. All right, you ready? There we go. 300 some odd matches. Let me see if these verses are here. Isaiah 40. What did I say? 40:22. Isaiah 40:22. Oh man, it's up in Deuteronomy. Isaiah 40:22. Probably not this word. Probably another one. This is what I do. I go nuts. It's not here. Okay, it's got to be skine. It's got to be a different skine. These are all skine. I'm sorry, I'm not going to drive you guys crazy looking for this stuff. This is what I do. Let me see. So Job 36:29. Let's just look for it. 36:29. I thought maybe I could have them all at my fingertips, but I got to look up each one individually. Job 36:29. They are at my fingertips when I do this. 36:29. Get this out of here, this out of here, this out of here. Also, can any understand the spreading of the clouds, the noise of his tabernacle? Great verses here. And this is the sukkah. This is when they came out of the wilderness. No, when they came out of Egypt, the first thing they did was pitch tents, and they did the sukkah, the tabernacle, the boots. When they did the boots, they have a whole thing over here. They do it on the island. All these places, they set up boots outside the house. It's called sukkah. Tabernacle. So, no, strictly does Job 36:29 speak of a heavenly tent. In wording in Psalms 26 and 5, I don't trust when they go to Psalms. Sometimes they're wrong. It might be Psalms 25 and 5. I hated the congregation. Well, let's sit with it. So it's not. It's something. It's probably 25 and 5. Usually goes backwards one. Sometimes it goes forward one. But no, wait, no, David. 27. Let's try 27. See what happens. Here we go. For in the time of trouble, he shall hide me in his pavilion. So if you've got the theological dictionary of the New Testament there, sometimes they'll put Psalms 26 and 5 when they mean 27 and 5. So if you get confused sometimes, if you're reading it and you say that doesn't make sense, go to the next chapter. For in time of trouble he shall hide me in his pavilion. In the secret of his tabernacle shall he hide me. He shall set me upon a rock. Who's the rock? We know what a rock is. And that's the sukkah here. And then he'll hide me in the secret of his what? In his tabernacle, his ohel. All right? And he'll hide me. All right? 26. And where in 26:5, I got to cross it out and make it 27 and 5. 27 and 5 refers to God's Ohel and his Sukkah. But here we either have a metaphor for protection as Psalms 30:21, and it's probably not Psalms 30:21. So let's go to 31:21. We'll jump the gun here, see what happens. Sometimes they're right. 31:21. Let's go to 30. There is no 20. 30:21. Maybe there is. 11. Nope. Okay. So anyway, I'm not going to go nuts looking for all these things. A reference to a tabernacle or a temple. The tabernacle is made according to a heavenly prototype, but this does not presuppose that God lives in heaven in a kind of tabernacle or tent. We know that, but rather that there is a heavenly pattern for the earthly tabernacle. And that's the part that I underlined in there. I wanted to read the whole paragraph, but this part that stands out to me is the tabernacle is made according to a heavenly prototype, but this does not presuppose that God lives in heaven in a kind of tabernacle or tent, but rather that there is a heavenly pattern for the earthly tabernacle. It's all shadows and images and stuff like that. So Wisdom 9:8 is also to be taken in the sense, unless the reference here is to the tabernacle as the predecessor of the temple. And we're not going to get into all the wisdom till we got non-biblical stuff. And then the expression skine to mataruo, that's the witness, is not used in Hebrews 37. Hebrews simply speaks of the skine, and it distinguishes the true aletheia or heavenly. Hebrews 8:2. Let me see what he's talking about here. I don't want to bore you guys with this. I'm just reading from the Theological Dictionary, and there's some things that are sticking out to me. Hebrews 8:2. It says here, a minister of the sanctuary and of the true tabernacle, which the Lord pitched and not man. So this isn't a physical tabernacle, all right? It's the skine, a minister of the sanctuary. The Lord pitched it. 40 pegnumi. One time in the Bible, pegnumi, to pitch. Okay, 8:2 says of the heavenly skine that God himself pitched. Here a formula from Numbers 24:6 used of the tents of Jacob is changed from the plural to the singular and referred to the heavenly sanctuary. To o kurios, the author adds uk anthropos, which means not man, to make plain who was also the builder of the skine aletheia, or the true tabernacle. Conversely, it is said of the earthly tabernacle that God certainly gave the command to erect it, but is not himself to be regarded as its builder. This is Moses. He has epitele. He was to make the skine. 8:5. Here we go. Let's go. 8:5. Stop. 8:5. Who serve unto the example of the shadow of heavenly things, as Moses was admonished of God when he was about to make the tabernacle. For see, saith he, that thou make all things according to the pattern showed thee in the mount. So the cloud on top of the mountain was a picture of this tabernacle that Moses was supposed to build, and Moses built it. All right, according to the tabernacle, the skine that he told you to build. Hence, the tabernacle is said to be built by human hands, made with hands holy. 9:24. Made with hands holy. 9:24. Made with hands holy. 24. For Christ is not entered into the holy places made with hands, which are the figures of the true, but into the heaven itself, now to appear in the presence of God for us. 924. Okay. The heavenly skene, however, is not made with hands. And that would be 911. 911. But Christ, being come an high priest of good things to come by a greater and more perfect tabernacle, not made with hands, that is to say, not of this building. That makes perfect sense to me. In the same passage, and be called Mezio, which means greater, and Telotopia, greater and more perfect in the same sense. What verse is that? 911. Not to make him won't sacrifice the first tabernacle. Okay. The Holy Ghost is signifying that the way into the holies of all is not yet made manifest, while as the first tabernacles was yet standing, which is a figure for the time then present, in which we offered both gifts and sacrifices that could not make him that did serve it perfect. Oh, it's telling you. Where's this 3187? 3187. I'm sorry for doing this to you. Tabernacle, figure of tabernacle. All if everyone can sacrifice that could not make and that did the service perfect. That's telling you, tell you all as pertaining to, I don't know. Anyway, so there's a lot here, and in Hebrews 9:1, the tabernacle is described as hagios kosmikos, as a worldly sanctuary or earthly sanctuary. Hebrews 9:1. I think we just read that already. Hebrews 9:1. Then Beverly, the first covenant had also ordinances. No. Yeah. The tabernacle is described as hagios kosmikos, or earthly sanctuary. On the basis of Leviticus 8:10, a brief account is given of its consecration in Hebrews 9:21. Moreover, he sprinkled with blood both tabernacle and all the vessels of the ministry. Okay. Hebrews 9:2 deals with its inner appointments. And here, 9:2, the sanctuary and the Holy of Holies are differentiated as prote and deutera. That's the first and the second. Okay. I haven't translated this yet, but I know a lot of the Greek in here. So I don't want to start guessing at words. We know prote is probably first and deutera is second, right? 9:7. Let me see. Let me double check here. 9:7. Yeah. This is deuteros, okay. With the high priest alone, and once a year with the tabernacle blood, when he offered himself in front of the people. Where's the first one? Here's the first tabernacle, protos. So the protos, skene, and then he went into the second one, the deuteros. That's what Deuteronomy is, the second law. Luke 16:9 speaks of the eschatological skene in the plural. Luke 16:9. Luke 16:9. Should have ended this already, but we're still going here. 16:9. And I say unto you, make to yourselves friends of the mammon of unrighteousness, that when you fail, they may receive you into everlasting habitation. Skene. I'm not going to get into all of this. Post-apostolic, skonoma, skonuo. I can't read all this. Epi. The New Testament, kataskonomo, is used only under Old Testament influence. So that's when we threw it back into the Old Testament, and we got that the shakan Okay. What's this? 4634. We didn't look at this yet. Yeah. 4634. The Feast of Tabernacles. Skenopegia. Tabernacles. The construction of tabernacles. Tabernacles. The Feast of Tabernacles. This festival observed by the Jews yearly for 7 days, beginning with the 15th of the month Tishri. That's September, October. Partly to perpetuate the memory of the time when their ancestors, after leaving Egypt, dwelt in tents on their way through the Arabian desert, and partly as a season of festivity and joy on the completion of the harvest and the vintage. That's what it's all about, the Feast of Tabernacles. That's the liquid, that's the vine, the vintage, the grapes and all that stuff. Joy in the completion of the harvest and the vintage, the festival of ingatherings. So there we go. That's this 10th day, the 7th month, and all of that stuff. It goes with the feast of ingathering and the Day of Atonement. And celebrating the festival, the Jews were accustomed to construct booths of the leafy branches of the trees, either on the roofs or in the courts of their dwellings or in the street, the squares, and to adorn them with flowers and fruits of all kinds, on which throughout the period of the festival they feasted and gathered themselves up and rejoiced. And I see that all the time here when you get to September, October. These guys are outside building their booths on their decks and things like that. So that's the Feast of Tabernacles there. We're not going to get into all of this. To pitch or set up a tent or a hut or a booth. So we'll do that. We'll stop right here. Thank you, God. So much to do with just habitation. I just started looking up habitation, and this is where it took us. So we thank you. We're just doing it. We're getting some more wrinkles in the gray matter when it comes to understanding your word. And that's what we do here, one word at a time, one verse at a time. We thank you, God. We love you. Give you all the praise and glory and honor in Jesus' name. Amen. That's that. I got to figure out how to stop this thing, right?
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I didn't think we were going to go that far. Stop recording. Okay. Thank you, God. Recording will be saved in meeting organizers Google Drive. Okay.